Hello students, in this lecture we will talk about training and testing. So from the beginning I have been saying that we have training and testing as the two important phases of our machine learning algorithm. So whatever data set I have, I generally split it into two parts. I split it into a training part and a testing part. Now what is the significance? So I had told you that this could be a 75 or a 25 split. Now there's another factor which comes in. I could also have a validation set for validating my model after each and every iteration that I do of the training. So originally I have the entire data set which is split into three parts: a training set, a validation set and a test set. The training set is basically used to fit my model. So I will use this entire set to be able to train the model. Now validation set is a subset of data which is used to tune the model's hyperparameters, assess its performance and prevent overfitting. Now what does this mean? I will just let you know after this. And the test set is again a completely different subset. So what happens is my training set, it makes a model and I keep validating that whatever model that I am building after the training by the validation set. So this validation set is actually used after each and every iteration of my training to improve the validity of my training, and eventually when I have trained my model with my validation close to what I want, then I use my test set which is completely unseen to this model, and then I test the validity of that entire model that I have developed. So to understand this better, what we were talking about, the model's hyperparameters, so you need to understand what are parameters and hyperparameters. So parameters are internal to the model, so something which is learned. So suppose I am talking about the coefficients of weight in a linear regression. So I have been talking about A0 plus A1 x1 plus A2 x2. Suppose this is the kind of model that I am creating for my y target value in regression. So all these weights will be learned by the model itself, and these are parameters which we cannot control. After a number of iterations, whatever these values converge to, they are kind of controlled by the model that I am making and the activation function and whatever. So there are other details which we will get into later on when we move on to the course, but you just need to understand that these are parameters which are not in our control and are learned by the model itself. Whereas hyperparameters are some things which we can change. So there are some things like a train test split ratio. So like I said, I could have a 75-25 kind of a split. I could have 80-20 kind of a split. So that is something which I control. So these hyperparameters can be tuned for a better functioning of the algorithm. So my validation set is a subset of the data used to tune the model's hyperparameters, assess its performance and prevent overfitting. I do not want a model which is overfitting the entire training set, because ultimately when it sees a new data, then it will perform very badly. So that is why the validation set is used, and the testing set is definitely a completely separate subset of data which is used to evaluate the final model which I will build. And it is something which the model has not seen previously. So there are various models to train a model. We will talk about each and every one of them in detail now. So the first is the holdout method, which is the most common method. So I have a data here. I split it into a training and a testing part, or I can split it into a training, validation and testing part, and I could whatever ratio that I take. But then the holdout method is that I completely hold out this entire data set. I do not use it, and I just train my model from this and ultimately use this once the model is complete. So this is a holdout method which we usually do. Now the k-fold cross validation method. So what does it do? So this is what it looks like. So suppose I will start with a k value fold. So I choose a number k. It is generally either 5 or 10. So suppose I have 10 as k. What will I do? I have maybe 1,000 values with me. So I will have 100 values in each and every fold that I will create. Split the data set into k equal, if possible, parts. Otherwise, whatever is left, we will keep it in the last fold. Choose k minus 1 folds is the training set. So what we are doing is we are holding out this value right now, and we are training the model using this part. So all these 9 folds are used to train. Then in the second iteration, what will I do? I will hold out this and use the other 9 parts to train. So I will train the model, validate on the test set, save the result. So I will save this result and I will keep repeating for each and every fold that I have. So I have 10 folds here. So I will repeat this 10 times till all my each and every fold has been used as a test part. And eventually what will I have? I will have 10 results of my validation here, and I will get the final score by averaging the result of the 10 iterations that I ran. So this is a k-fold cross validation method. Then we have leave one out cross validation, LOOCV. Now this is a special case of actually a k-fold only. Here what we do is that we assume that I have n number of training part sets. So suppose I have, maybe here I had 1000 values. So what will I do? I will just leave one out and I will use 999 values to train the model and 1 to test. Then in the next running I will remove this one, put it here and take another part and then run with the 999 that I have here. So here it's actually the same thing, but I'll use n number of iterations now. So if I have 1000 values, I will run 1000 iterations and I will just hold out one sample in every iteration. And like in the previous part we did, we will train, validate, save the result, keep repeating and then take the final score average for all the results that we have. So this is LOOCV. Then we have stratified k-fold. Now there may be a large imbalance of target values. So suppose I have a data set of dogs and cats and I have maybe 1000 pictures, but I have 800 pictures of dogs and only 200 pictures of cats. So here you can see there's a large imbalance of my target values here. So to be able to compensate for that, what we do is we use the stratified k-fold. So this is how it looks like. So suppose this is a class imbalance. It splits the data set on k-folds such that each fold contains approximately the same percentage of samples of each and every target class as the complete set. So originally, if I had 800 to 200, every set that I make will hold the same ratio here. So with the same ratio preserved, I will make k folds out of this and then I will repeat in the same way as I did before. So as before, I will do 5 rounds if I had k is equal to 5 and again split, train, validate, save and repeat and then take the average of the results that we get. Then bootstrap sampling. So this is a simple random sampling with replacement. So suppose I have very few data sets. My input data is very small. So what do? I pick out data instances from the input data set with possibility of the same data instance being picked multiple number of times. You can see here I have just 2 yellow values, but I have repicked these here to be able to create a sample here. So I can keep creating. I am basically picking out balls. I am picking out instances of these samples and it is with a replacement. So pull out a sample here. That sample copy will be present here and I am again able to use it. So that is why I have a lot of samples created from the same sample that I had. I had a very small sample size, but I am able to create a larger sample size from this by repeatedly using values from this. So these are the kind of training models that we have here. So I will finish the lecture here and I will continue the next one. Thank you.